Enta is good now.
I knew you'd come around.
Yeah, well, we're back for episode 3 of Sarazanmai. And it was good. And Enta is good.
Yeah, my boy. I knew he had it in him.
I think it was pretty clear to all of the listeners that I was not saying
this fucking bullshit. This fucking revisionist history. Alright, get out of the way.
Historical revisionism is a very important task. If we didn't do it, we would never update our understandings of history. We would be stuck in a constant idea that great men decide everything. So frankly, accusing me of historical revisionism is
George Orwell.
Wait, but... What?
Welcome to 1984. It's President George Orwell, the 1984 man.
Yeah. Anyways, this episode was good. It was not really like episode 2. It didn't have as much content to talk about, I don't think, as episode 1. Mm-hmm. But there's still stuff to discuss. Although obviously, from what I've heard about episode 4, we'll probably have a significantly longer episode next week, especially if we bring on a guest, as I believe we shall be doing.
Oh shit! When was it? I didn't hear about this. When was this decided?
I decided it just now.
Cool, sick.
Well, a couple hours ago, actually.
Okay, phone him up.
But yes, this episode was still pretty good.
Oh, it was excellent. I felt like it moved at a more reasonable or restrained pace than the 2 prior episodes.
Which is funny, because the entire show moves at a way more reasonable pace than, like, any other Ikuhara show except Usuna.
Yeah. Absolutely, no. And, oh, fuck. That last scene. How could they do my... I mean, it's very fair. That's not queerbaiting. They set it up as a thing Enta does multiple times. But still... Oh, I wanted it.
Well, it's also not
true.
queerbaiting because A, he literally kisses
gay,
Kazuki.
Yeah.
B, is explicitly in love with Kazuki.
But it was, let him be a couple.
And
please.
C, that would be kicking toy out of things.
But Enta needs it so badly. He's so lonely. He's so sad.
He'll get something by the end of the season.
Yeah. Good. I'm hoping. I'm like... He's the character I am now most emotionally invested in, just because his struggle is so rough, man.
No, he does have it rough. The episode definitely sold me on the idea that Enta's love of Kazuki is genuine and, like, justifiable. Not justifiable as in, like, you have to justify your love for somebody, but in that it justified why I should care about it?
Yeah.
Which is really what's important.
No, it sold you on not the relationship, but the prospective relationship, on the emotions at play, and that's really important to do. Overall, the character work in this has been really deft, especially in the context of Ikuhara having struggled in that regard on his last one core project, being Yurikuma Arashi, which didn't leave much room to get to know many of the characters. That's sort of the most common complaint about it.
Yeah, I agree. Compared to Yurikuma, this show is really succeeding at establishing characters, not just whose motivations are clear, 'cause in Yurikuma they still have clear motivations, but characters who have any depth to them, any level of,
like, emotional
dimensionality.
Depth to them, yeah.
No, that's what I meant, emotional depth. Because...
No, that's also another thing, not just that you can, like, buy into them emotionally, which a lot of people struggled with in Yurikuma, but that they do have those dimensions to them. In Yurikuma, it was fairly single-minded.
It was literally just Lulu. Like, was the only one who had, like, any real depth.
She loves her girlfriend.
Her girlfriend was Eden. She wants to kill the bears until she loves Ginkgo, which she remembers.
She gets a relationship with the bears and is now conflicted by those two desires. So it's, like, very straightforward.
Ginkgo just wants to fuck Kureha.
This, you've got, like, a lot of, I think, more messy and complex feelings at play.
And I love messiness. We just watched She-Ra.
So messy.
So messy.
Aw, dude, She-Ra's so fucking sick.
But I fundamentally agree. As I said, Lulu was the only character in Yurikuma who really had any of that depth, who really had a good sense of interiority at all, and whose emotions were at all complex. She was in love with Ginkgo, but was actively helping Ginkgo to try and, like, get her own girlfriend.
Yeah, so rough. Oh, Lulu got done
so much.
dirty.
The only reason I'm worried about like the main three boys in this is because Lulu got no happiness.
Yeah.
What if Enta ends up like Lulu?
Oh no, Ikuhara, don't do it to me a second time.
It's not impossible.
He does love his tragic gaze.
I love his tragic gaze.
I do love his tragic gaze.
Tragic gaze are like the thing that makes the world go round.
They sustain me.
Tragic gaze, mind you, not oppressed gaze. Those
No.
are different things.
No. Get
Oppressed
outta here.
gaze, bad. Tragic gaze, really good.
That woke shit.
But as I was saying, Sarazanmai, I mean, first of all, I think it's just better than Yurikuma in almost every way thus
shit,
far.
boy. I mean, yeah. Except that's not lesbians. That's the only way it
That
works.
and one other thing. We have not yet gotten our requisite Ikuhara fairy tale.
Oh,
Give
that's
me
true.
a fairy
Yeah,
tale.
It's been a little light on
Ikuhara.
fairy tale. It's using folklore, in the form of the kappa, obviously, but in terms of actual fairy tale, that's interesting.
Well, I think there's something interesting about that. First of all, the folklore is Japanese folklore.
No, exactly.
And that's never been the case.
No.
All of Ikuhara shows are grounded as being in Japan. It's very important to them that they're in Japan.
But they
Perhaps
use
Utena the least importantly. But
Western
like all of them use
fairy
Western
tale
fairy tale
imagery.
ideas.
Yeah.
Yes. Kappa are different
Yeah.
on a fundamental level. And I have to wonder what that says exactly. I don't think it's a... Oftentimes in anime, when things turn inwards, when you look at like a Symphogear and the way it portrays the nation, there's a very clear nationalist subtext there.
Mhm.
There's very obviously a part of the work that's saying Japan should be separate from other nations in some way. And I'm not interested in debating the quality of that, but let's look historically at what Japanese nationalism has caused.
Oh no.
But I don't get that sense here.
No.
First of all, because of the engagement with Western fairy tales. But I think there's something about the way local traditions are subsumed by capital, taken over by capital,
No,
really.
that's...
And the use of kappa and otters, which I'm sure means something. I'm not exactly clear on it.
No, I think
I've seen some like rumblings about it,
Yeah.
but I haven't like done any deep research into like the meanings of otters in Japanese folklore, which I'm sure there's something there that has like some relation to kappa or something. They both do live in rivers. I feel like that's probably notable too.
Are
Rivers-
otters like the more grounded real world form? Are otters sort of demystifying and like a not traditional sort of parallel to kappa in some way?
I've suddenly woke. Okay, so let's go with some Delusian concepts
Oh,
here.
baby.
The concept of deterritorialization. Quite a mouthful. Deterritorialization in the Lusingatari's work is the concept of schizophrenizing, which sounds bad, in like a somewhat ableist way, but
keep with us here.
of scrambling the codes. And capitalism deterritorializes that which it touches and then reterritorializes it. And deterritorialization, a common example, would be the way in which the codes of traditional social systems in various areas, like the customs of like an indigenous group, are scrambled, i.e. destroyed, and then reterritorialized, replaced with something that might have some commonality with what came before, but is ultimately totally different and works towards the functions of capital rather than the functions of whatever social system existed prior. And I think that the otters are perhaps deterritorializing what existed before, which was the kappa.
Because what we learned of the otters in this episode, which was our first real insight into them of any measure, was the fact that the pair of police officer boys work for the otters.
The Otter Empire.
The Otter Empire, right, and that the otters are imperial.
Yeah, and I feel like
as
the
opposed to the
imperialists...
Kappa Kingdom.
But at the same time, I don't think the kappa are purely good, of course.
No.
There's a sense of... I think there's a criticism here of this nationalism, in a certain way. There's a critique of the way that it's easy for the elites in a given country to take the liberation struggle, to take the opposition to imperial rule, and use it in their favor to be like, yes, those imperialists are so bad, unlike us, when they're still exploiting the people of that country.
No, and I mean, if we want to put it in, like, the most sort of direct and less symbolic terms, American Empire versus Japanese monarchy, that big conflict during World War II, the
Which
two
is
powers at play.
Not exactly how it is, because Japan was an empire too.
Right, no, Japan was an imperial power, but if their enemy, the outside enemy, was an incursion by an empire deconstructing their monarchy. And, like, Ikuhara is not doing that. It's not just, like, an allegory for America post-World War II occupation or anything. But that is sort of, like, the historical dynamics informing things to a degree.
For sure. And I don't think that the show is primarily a critique of nationalism or anything. But I do think that that subtext is there, and that the choice of, like, the Otter Empire as opposed to the Kappa Kingdom is, like, a important one.
Yeah, because neither are good, because both are unjust hierarchies.
For sure. As I was saying, though, I do think that the distinction between the Kappa Kingdom and the Otter Empire are notable, especially in light of the fact that while the Kappa Kingdom does not seem totally all good, they definitely have more benign motives than the Otter Empire, who is killing people. So I'm curious to see where that goes. I don't really want to say too much more about it now. I'm not sure I have a totally definitive idea of where it's going with that material, but I do think it's worth keeping track of as we continue into the series.
I mean, if you sort of want to make note of something here, it's that I believe it's called Kappa Zone, right? Amazon is Kappa in some way. I don't know if it's run by the Kappa. I don't know if, like, the imagery of the Kappa is being appropriated for the naming of this company that is actually run by the Otter Empire or something. But it is a malicious force, Kappa Zone. It is a force of capitalism, and a force of capitalism that's being used to critique that system. And yet it's associated with the good guys insofar as the Kappa are that.
Yeah, as I said, I'm very curious to see where it goes. I don't think we can say too much more about it now with the material we've got. So what else this episode stood out?
Gun was last episode, right?
Gun was last
come
episode.
Up again. We're still waiting to see what the fuck happens with that gun.
I honestly don't think we have too much to say about Entei anymore, even though he took up the bulk of the episode, but was fairly straightforward character stuff.
Yeah.
All I have to say from that is, again, to reiterate the point that this episode really convinces me that Ikuhara knows how to create strong characters this time in a way that other shows, especially Yurikuma, did not. Penguin Drum and Utena did good at it. It's really just Yurikuma. I'm sorry, Yurikuma. I love you a lot.
I love you so much. In terms of other things to make note of for this episode, there's of course the fact that Kazuki is finally not the one whose dirty secrets were being divulged here in the climax scene. And also, sort of in accordance with that, things were shuffled around a little bit such that Enta was leading that canned animation for the whole extraction sequence there.
For sure. I think what that means is that, first of all, I think Toy is probably going to get next episodes.
Yeah, it depends, right? The pattern has been broken, but we don't know what subsequent pattern will emerge from that, right? So is it we get 2 in a row for Kazuki, then maybe we double up on Enta to get more info on him? Or is it we start off with just a lot on Kazuki because he's the most...
We've heard next episode is really dark. And
that's
I feel like the episode
Toy has more darkness, too.
Although there is one thing this episode that we should talk about that is also could easily become dark.
Right.
And another element of this show being a sequel to Penguin Drum.
Right.
Which is...
Right. Fuck, I almost forgot. You're right.
Which is health and healthcare. Haruka, Kazuki's little brother, is somehow sick. Yeah. He clearly regularly visits the hospital. He, in some form at the very least, needs a wheelchair.
Right. Whether that's because his movement is disabled in some way or just because if you're like a sickly patient at a hospital, you'll be transported around in a wheelchair. In some shape or form, that's at play.
Yeah, and
he's probably a fucking dead dog. He's just a ghost or some shit.
I don't think he's a ghost. If anything, Kazuki's more likely to be a ghost. It was kind of concerning this episode how much time Enta specifically spent with Haruka and not Kazuki.
Yeah, no, there's weird shit going on, dude.
Also, like, Haruka said, oh, I don't text with Kazu-chan.
Have we seen Haruka and Kazuki be together with anyone else observing that? Or
their parents.
We've had household scenes, that's right. But, like...
There's something going on. We don't know what it is, and I don't feel like it's worth speculating because we will be wrong.
No, for sure.
But there's something, and Penguin
really,
Drum.
Sorry, if I could just note, really good like structure in terms of twists and hooks thus far. Insofar as last episode ended with the kiss. Oh shit. And then this episode ended with the reveal. Haruka's at a hospital in a wheelchair in some way. There's some shit going on there. And I like the way that the kiss continued at the start of this episode, insofar as it just really went in on that kiss and was like, yo dog, they kissing. Like, it really showed it full on.
I feel like they kiss and it has like a level of like mutuality that is not there. But
yeah.
For sure though. But as I was going to say, Penguin Drum focused a lot on healthcare and on the price of healthcare in a way that feels even more notable as an American.
Yeah.
But that clearly, like, Japanese people, they have universal healthcare, but it is not free. Like, they don't have single payer or anything. And that can cause problems. Expensive surgeries are still expensive in Japan in many cases, even if it's a lot cheaper to be sick than it would be in America.
Yeah, for sure.
America's just particularly bad.
Yeah, America's just like so atrocious that it blinds you to the like concept of flaws in any moderately better healthcare system than our own.
For sure. And I just have a hard time believing that Ikuhara is going to talk about health in any way without going into healthcare, especially in a show so clearly focused on the issues of capitalism.
Oh yeah, baby. I'm so excited. I thought you were going to sneeze there for a second.
I thought I was going to sneeze there for a second.
Alright. And then the one other thing, a real note, I already said that, but I remembered another one that came up this episode in sort of concurrence with the reveal of the Otter Empire and the fact that police boys work for them, is part of that dynamic that exists between them, insofar as they are pretty subservient to that empire and treated pretty poorly by it.
For sure.
So we're getting into like stratified oppression here, baby. We're getting into serving the arbiters of your own oppression, baby. All sorts of shit.
I'm very excited.
Classic Ikuhara spices sprinkled in here.
Absolutely excited to see where all of this shakes out.
And once again, cops just fucking shot somebody this episode. He dead.
Yeah. They just murder guys.
But they're bad guys, so you know. Thank you for protecting the community, police.
And thank you for listening to this podcast.
Thank you.
As I said, there will hopefully be a guest next time.
Hell yeah. Next episode, we've heard like the voice actors say, yo, get to that 4th episode though, shit gets wild. So it would be a good one to bring a guest in on.
There was a preview at like the cafe. And someone said on Twitter, they just described it as holy shit.
I'm so excited.
So we're incredibly excited to watch that episode and discuss it with you, and we will see you then.
Bye.
Bye.